can satisfy our desire for the infinite. Remember, God has created us that we can be drawn back to Him. Okay, that's our purpose. That's our calling in life. So that's why sometimes we say we are called for greatness, because we are called to go back to the greatest ever. Okay? So, but if we stop here, and this is very, very interesting. Okay? If we stop here like I did, if we stop here and I was happy, very happy. But the effects after that were not very happy. Okay? So if I stopped here, so basically if he says, if we stop here with finite things, okay, he calls this okay. So I was at a point in my life, and this is the truth, I was at a point in my life where I couldn't go or I couldn't be seen at a party without a drink in my hand. It was part of my hand. Whether I looked cool or not, whether I wanted to drink or not, it was part of my hand. Okay? So for me, it had stopped here. Because I just wanted to be happy. Everybody else said it was happy, it was good, so I wanted to stop here. Okay? Now, today, youth, now, addiction sometimes is a scary word. Oh no man, this guy needs to go to the meeting downstairs, AA. Okay? But addiction is a scary word. Sometimes the lesser, lighter word is attachments. Okay? So, I'm not saying each of us are addicted, but look at the attachments that we have today. Okay? So, I'm going to ask you now, today as youth, in today's world, what are the things that we are attached to, overly attached to? Anybody? Phones. Like talking on the phone or buying phones? Phones. Okay, buy, text, whatever. BB. Oh, what is the other one? WhatsApp. Okay. What else? What? Internet. Oh, nice one. Oh, nice one. Internet. Shopping. Okay, I'm going to ask you a serious question now. What about things related to our sexuality? Pornography. Okay. This is another big revelation, okay? So listen to what Pope Benedict said in the UCAT, okay? This is while he was begging us. He actually uses these words, I beg you to learn your faith, okay? I'm going to ask Eddie to read this out, okay? Come. You want the mic? No, you just stand there and read. Okay?
You need God. God's help in your faith is not going to dry up like a dewdrop in the sun. If your love is not drowned in pornography.
Thank you, Eddie. I'll repeat that. You need God's help if your faith is not going to dry up like a dewdrop in the sun. If your love is not to drown in pornography. When I read it, I was shocked. Why would the Pope say something this harsh? He could have said, if your love is not to fade away. He could have said, if your love is not too selfish. Why did he say, if your love is not to drown in pornography?
It's a pleasure which takes you to...
Okay. But I think the bigger problem is, it is very, very rampant today. In the old days, you had to actually go and buy it. Now you have to watch that it doesn't hit you in your face. Okay? So, we're going to show you a short clip. Guys, please bear with us if you have seen this clip before, because we have shown it. If you have seen it, look for something deeper. Look for something that you didn't catch last time. Okay? Now, for some of us, it might not apply to us. Okay? But it might apply to friends of who we know. I know friends, even at my age, who are struggling with this. Okay? So it might help us there. Also, it could apply to certain attachments. So look at what he's saying and look at this, how it can apply to certain attachments that we have or certain addictions that we have. Yeah? So this is a short clip by Jason Evert. And the title of this is Pornography, Who Does It Hurt?
Welcome to The Pure Life. Tonight we're going to talk about pornography and who does it hurt. And I think a lot of people involved in the whole industry will say, well, that's just a dumb question. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody's getting disease. Nobody's getting pregnant. If she's willing to do it, and you can look at the privacy of your own house, nobody's getting hurt. It's a ridiculous question. But this is actually what happens in reality. I read in Alaska, if an Eskimo sees a wolf on his territory, he has to kill the wolf because otherwise it threatens his livestock and his children. But he doesn't want to face the wolf head on, so he uses the wolf's appetite to bring it down. The Eskimo will actually take a knife and he will slaughter one of his own goats and pour the blood of the goat onto the blade of the knife, and he'll allow it to freeze overnight. The blood will freeze on the blade of the knife, and the next day he pours more blood on. The next night, more blood, and it forms a sheath of blood, almost an icicle of blood on the blade of the knife. He then takes it to the edge of his camp, and he buries the handle of the blade of the knife into the snow with the blade sticking out. Now, wolves can smell blood from miles away. So the wolf will smell it in the middle of the night, get excited, and he finds it. And he's a little cautious at first, but he begins to lick it. And he gets excited because he tastes the blood. And he continues licking. Now, because it's frozen, it eventually numbs his tongue. But since he still has the sense of smell, he can still taste it all. And he gets excited. And the blood begins to be warmed up and taken off the blade of the knife. The blade edges start to be exposed, and it starts to nick the tongue of the wolf, and it starts to cut him. And as the goat's blood is taken off, it's replaced with his own, but he can't feel it. And now he tastes fresh blood. He gets more excited, and he's licking until the blood is off, and he gets dizzy, disoriented, and the wolf will be dead within hours of blood loss. This is exactly what happens with the porn. That the guys get so excited, they're getting all satisfaction, nobody's getting hurt, and by the time you pay the price, so much damage has already been done. And I can say it because I know I had all the stuff growing up. I mean, in my high school, one guy passed out pornography from his locker to anyone who would vote for him as senior class vice president. Now, I don't know if he's a politician today or not, but it was immersed. It was everywhere. And all of us high school guys would blow it off. Like, it's not going to affect me. It's not a big deal. I'm not doing anything that bad. I mean, those guys are being worse than I am. They're doing it for real. And we would just write it all off and justify it. But what happens to the man, the pleasure center of a man's brain is called your medial preoptic nucleus. And it's very easily trained. You may have heard in psychology class about Pavlov's dog. The psychologist would ring a bell, feed his dog, ring his bell, feed the dog. And eventually, all he had to do was ring the bell, and the dog would associate the sound of the bell with the taste of the food, and his mouth would water just by hearing the bell. It's called a trained response. They found out the same thing happens with a man's brain with pornography, that if a man is experiencing sexual arousal and excitement while looking at this dirty, illicit, forbidden sexual fantasy, he actually trains his brain that sexual joy should be all these dirty fantasies. And that's why they put perfume samples of women in men's pornographic magazines, so that the man will associate erotic images with that smell and he'll be more likely to buy the fragrance. But what happens in the relationships is the man has trained himself that sexual joy is all these dirty, bad things. But what happens when you get married? Your wife isn't dirty, she's not a fantasy, but you've actually trained yourself that that's what should arouse you. And you get husbands bringing the porn into the bedroom, having it on the internet, having some secret affair on the internet. You also have the men having swimsuit posters of women in their garage. And they basically think, well, if my wife doesn't look like these women, well, it's kind of her fault. And they just make the blame on the women. But they've actually trained themselves in boredom. Because when a guy looks at pornography, how long does he look at a particular woman? 5 seconds? 10 seconds? 30? Then you go to the next one.